but that doesn't help anybody, I don't think.
Yeah, well, a bit session.
Bitch.
Oh, good. We're live now. Maybe they'll watch it.
Are we? Are we really?
Yeah. What, yeah. Yeah. What'd you call me? Say it again.
I said we were talking here. Scott and I were talking, and it would seem like a bitch session because his accountant made an
Yeah,
appointment
you
with
definitely
him and he
can't
didn't show
count on
up.
my accountant.
I thought you could. You can count on people.
Isn't that their job is to count things like
Yeah.
numbers?
So for a second we were talking about, what do you do when people, stand him up? Basically they make an appointment with you and they don't show up to it, and it gets a little, you know, how do you deal with that? That's what we're talking about today. How are we going to deal with that? Uh, One thing, a lot of things, we don't have to take it personally. It's really about them. It's not about us. When they don't show up, and if they don't do that regularly, then you gotta, if they keep on doing that, that's the same way with Scott and I when we hire or s- you know put out or an entertainer or a product and it doesn't show up. So we don't hire them very much anymore. How do you? We're asking, how do you deal with these things?
Yeah, that's right, guys. Leave a comment down below. What are you guys dealing with? What's going on? Are
Yeah,
you able to overcome whatever challenges that come up your way? Like, let us know what you got going on because everybody deals with challenges, right? Like, and you're gonna either let that define you, or you're gonna overcome it, and then it's up to you what you want it to be. So there's a few things that I've been dealing with lately. So again, you guys know one of my coaches is Frank Kern, and this guy has helped out people like Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, and the list goes on and on. People and even coaches that I've spent, lots of money with, like Billy Jean. I spent like 8 grand with him and some other coaches, and these guys all learned from Frank Kern, right? My coach now, right? And he's also the one of the head guys from Go High Level, which is an internet software that helps with marketing and clients and CRM. And I don't know if you don't understand what all that means, come join the Facebook group and I can, build you along the way as I'm figuring it out myself. So the other day, yesterday or the day before, I sat down with Tyler, and Tyler is one of Frank Kern's main people, right? It's like, so Frank's so busy doing Go High Level, working for that one of his clients, that he has Tyler to go ahead and help handle people out that are at my level, or people. A lot of people in the group were a little bit further than me. I felt like I was the lowest one on the totem pole, but anyway. He did an hour live session with anybody that had any questions and anybody that wanted to, further advance, where they're at. So he breaks out this computer, starts showing his screen and breaking out all these workflows for all these people. And then I get on there and I'm like, hey, man, I just want to get some wins. And he's like, well, talk to me about what you've done. And I was like, well, I built up a company to 370K. And he's like, well, how many employees do you have? And I was like, I got 20. He's like, wow, that you must know what you're talking about. And then he was like, well, what else? Where are you? What are you teaching? And he's like, oh, I teach NLP. And he's like, oh man, that's like one of the hardest markets to get into. And then it was like, well, if you want to get into there, that's going to be really hard to do. And then I was like, well, I built my DJ company up to 370K, but to get a DJ to spend any money on education, that's kind of like a hard sell. And then he literally was on his couch, right? And he did one of these things. He's like, what you've done is amazing. You have ADHD. Yeah, I don't know how to help you. So when he said all that, I'm like, these people felt like Tony Robbins and stuff. Like, but for me, I'm too like out there, right? So what I got from the conversation was that like I have to go trailblaze my own path, figure out what the answers are, and then bring it back to them and be like, well, this is what you do with somebody like me next time you run into that person. So anybody else, again with mindset, you could let that define you and be like, well, nobody else has done this before, so it might not be able to be done. Or you could look at it like, well, nobody's done this before because nobody's me. So I'm gonna have to show you how it's done. And that's the whole thing about being a mindset coach. If I was any, if I, if, again, the profession, right? You want to be a mindset coach. And if you're going to let something like that discourage you, then what are you doing a mindset coach? Like, you wouldn't be pretty good at your job if you were going to let that define you. So what do we do at this point, right? And he wanted to help me, but he guided me a little bit. And he said, whatever you're doing, it's just information about what didn't work, right? So you gather that information and then you move faster. Like, okay, this didn't work. Gather that information. Next idea, next idea, next idea, next idea. If you keep doing that, you're eventually going to run into an idea that's going to work. So, and I think about my DJ company and I was like, yeah, I did that too. Like the first thing I did was I spent 8 grand on Facebook ads and I hired one of the DJs to come over. I spent like $400 or $500 for him to run through a script. And the script I created was all through NLP language and persuasive language. And I was like, this is how we're going to get brides, right? Like for the DJ company. And I would keep running ads because I was so sold on this ad because it looked professional. If you guys want to see it, I still have it on my Dropbox, but it it's banger. The thing I didn't understand was that, when someone's on the toilet looking at Facebook, they ain't looking for a wedding DJ. And then how many times are they going to have to see you before they decide you're the one, they're going to hire, right? So, but man, like I could bring this to a professional marketing agency and be like, look what I've done. I mean, it didn't get me any results, but damn, if the market was different, you could really cash in on this because that's how professional it looked. And I could show this to anybody that didn't know any different and be like, oh, look how great this is. And they'll be like, oh, wow. And then I can make up some numbers and be like, well, this is what it gave me for sales. But no, I spent 8 grand. Just on the ad spend, right? Not production and the time I spent, getting the words to fly across the screen and all this craziness, which you could probably do really easy today. But when I did it, I spent 40 to 60 hours making this thing on top of, figuring out how to place it in the Facebook thing and getting that to run. And then I was like, hit the go button. And then learn really quickly that it doesn't work as easy as the way the guy did say it on the screen. So anyway, again, so if you can spend all this money and all this time doing something and it's not getting you results, shorten the time of how much you're going to spend with the experience and then just learn that didn't work. And if there's something you really feel passionate about, double down on that and then just figure out how that's going to work. So basically, I have a free course online. If you guys want to check it out, it's a free course. It's like, 9, 10 videos about how I built my mindset to get where I'm at today. And well, once you fill out the form, you get access to the class and drop me a line if you want to know. So anyway, that was my story for the week. The guy
That,
literally on the couch was like, I'm waiting for the replay. Like I want to go back and watch that.
well, I think
So
what I got out of that is basically, you know, when you find something and it's not working, let's move on to the next thing and keep on moving on until we find the things that work for us the best way. And same way with uh, probably Scott and I, when building our company, if something didn't work, we wrote it down and we made a new rule in our company. Like for example, one of the things we changed was I had a group of people out at an event, and another event tried to call us in for that same time, but we said no because we were on the other event, and then it rained, and so it rained out, and so after that we changed our rule. We only do rain or shine events because I lost, everybody for a whole weekend because we were doing a festival and they said, well, it rained, so we're not doing it. So what we learned from this one was basically if you're going to do that, do a contract. If they're going to cancel you, at least get 50% or 100% or whatever you're going to decide on your company, or you only do rain or shine events. And we only do rain or shine events. I decided it wasn't worth my time or effort not to be able to be booked if it was raining because now you're only doing it. And now I'm not sure what Scott's but that's what we did here on our company or my company. A lot of the people will do a 50% cancellation fee if you cancel, or a a retainer fee for their products or people. And uh, so uh, these are things you'll learn as you go down what works for you, and like he just said, he just spent $8,000 on advertisement. I spent $5,000 on I won't mention the place, but I didn't get two calls. I didn't even get two calls out of a $5,000 ad. So uh, there you go. As you know, if you've been running a company for a while, is that the advertisement, a lot of it works. That's a 20 80 rule. 20% of the stuff you're really doing is really carrying 80% of your company, so the effort. So what you want to do is find that effort that's working for you and do more of that and let the other stuff go away. And it's the same thing with uh, if you are a company that does repeat business a lot, you know, uh, work with the people you work with and keep them happy and then go get more. But don't neglect the people who give you all the money. Some people put more effort on somebody who gives them, you know, 1,000 a year than they do with somebody who gives them 20,000 a year. So start thinking working smarter instead of harder. What are you thinking? I just throwing
Well,
some of that out.
basically, if you're working on your goals, make sure to write them out and how many steps have you taken to go towards those goals and find out. You got to analyze, right? Like, so if you're not making any motion, then you have nothing to analyze. So if you've made steps and you don't know, if you haven't made steps, you don't know what you're doing, right? So if you made steps and they failed, at least you know not to do those steps again. So, and how fast are you learning your lesson? Like, are you learning? You got to keep sometimes, what do they say? We repeat our lessons until we learn them. So well, as I was saying earlier in the video, it was like, well, what's the fastest way to get to where you want to go? Well, you'd have to find somebody who's at where you're at. So a lot of people, since I've been posting some things online, I realize not a lot of people understand what hypnosis is or what NLP is. So when it comes to understanding where you want to go, you want to find somebody who's already at where you're at, and then just interview them. Or, I mean, there's tons of things on YouTube of people that are probably done what you're looking to do, and then you could just listen to what they're saying, and then reverse engineer it to how it works for you. So basically, I went and found all these different coaches from all these different areas because there was nobody in a DJ business, right? Like that was selling things the way that I made it work for me. So I took all these bits and pieces and mindset and put them together and then found out the system that I have now. And again, you could, go to 10,000 different coaches and then figure out what works for your business. or you could just take the bits and pieces that I learned. And then every coach that you get is going to have a different nugget for you to be able to go forward. But again, when you find somebody who is where you want to be, you can definitely reverse engineer what they're doing, and that's what NLP is, right? NLP is being able to take someone's thought process, putting it on a piece of paper, and then making it teachable to other people, right? So that's what they did when they were studying Fitzpearls, Milton Erickson, and Satir. So they were like, oh, these people are getting a lot of success in their psychology field. And that's probably why NLP is kind of connected to psychology, because these are the three people that they went and documented, right? And all these different paperwork on what they were doing, what their practices were. And then they were able to make it teachable to somebody else. Like Milton Erickson, they have the meta model where you would, kind of like cut away information or niche down to figure out what exactly is going on, right? And then you could overgeneralize. And then we have, well, so many different things from Milton Erickson, like the Erickson language, where you can think about all the possibilities and it gets you out of a stuck loop, right? So again, you want to go back to whoever's doing what you're doing, listening to their conversation, and even finding an NLP practitioner to blueprint what the person is doing that you want to do. So if you don't understand what NLP is, again, it's language that's connected to your psychology, and if you could, and it's connected to your thoughts. So if you could either, well, one or the other, change your language, change your thoughts, change your results, right? So you normally work from thoughts to language to actions to results. And then if you could just find out what, what your superhero is doing or what your model, is doing, then you can just replicate that in your own life. And it's another thing to keep important that your journey won't be exactly like somebody else's. Now, you can model and modify where their journey, they've trailblazed a certain way, and maybe you can go alongside them, or maybe, you go down the path and you're like, well, screw this. I'm going way the hell over here. But if you're not moving, then you will never get any information to analyze or to take it to a direction you want to go. Maybe you go someplace and then you realize it was way more involved than what you thought looking from the outside in, right? And then you get there and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this. I want to do something else. Because again, if you're not clear on your values and what makes you happy as a person, then you won't be fulfilled, living somebody else's life per se. But maybe it does, but you wouldn't know until you got there. Something.
Exactly. Yeah, even though you can learn from somebody else, you've got to be your own self too. That's what Scott was saying just at the very beginning. Basically, at one point, he's the one who's running his company. You can get all the tools in the world, but if it doesn't work for you and your personality and who you are, you'll find you're
Yeah,
going in.
there's a lot of people like DJs that work for me and they say, I envy you because I couldn't handle dealing with the client, you know, and because they'll be, let's say the last person who told me that was very kinesthetic because they felt too much for the other client. And then my response to that person was, well, if you just take the feelings out of it, then it's just on paper, right? And then that's something this person wasn't willing to do at that time or didn't want to grow past their comfort zone or whatever. A lot of people just want to stay what makes them happy, right? Which makes sense, where they will cling to other people that fulfill other parts of their life that they're not willing to go there. Like, oh, I just want to stay in my lane. And then I don't mind being in the lane next to you. I just want to stay over here. And who are you to tell them any different, right? Like, no, you got to grow and do this. And well, if I'm here and it works with you being here, let's just keep that. Because if you push somebody past their identity, that creates depression. I know we're jumping in all these different directions, but again, identity's up the top. Like if someone says I'm a hypnotist, then that's what they are. It's attached to their identity. And then like if you wanted to break, who you were, right? Let's say that you weren't something, but you said I am this, that, and then you did a switch pattern, which is, who remember I told you to find out who that person is that you want to be? How would that person act, right? If you said I'm a hypnotist, and then you said, well, would Milton Erickson look down, and then that would change who you were to change your identity to get you different results. Didn't prepare any graphs for today.
Today.
But again, you don't want to push somebody past their identity because I know a lot about that because that's what I was doing to keep my job for the other talent agency, which led me to depression, which led me to a counselor, which led me to NLP because the narcissist that was controlling what I was doing, again, my fault. I was allowing him to do it because I was living a life where I needed the income that I was getting from this person. So I had to bend it and do everything that I had to do to make sure to stay in that person's good graces, even though I overdid and over delivered. And then I was told I was the issue, and that just didn't make any sense. So I went to a counselor, spent hundreds of dollars, and then I wasn't getting anywhere. And then I knew that the person controlling me, which again I allowed to do because that's where I was at that time, told me that they were using NLP. And I was like, okay, well, it's language patterns. And every time I have a conversation with somebody, the guy's manhandling me. And I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. So I guess I got to learn NLP to at least fight fire with fire. And then it led me to where I am at now. And then that's why the coach's assistant was like this. He literally told me I had too much ADHD for him to help me.
Well,
When the recording goes
emotion.
into the group, I'm gonna go get it.
They do say that wheels in motion. Basically, even if you do have ADHD, it's one of those things which is good because you also have hyper focus too. So there's good and so making everything about you, weakness, strengths, you work with your strengths and make them stronger, and your weaknesses you pull up to make them your strengths too. I mean, I'll claim my ADHD, but it really helped me all my career for performing. It just because it's just But some people, take drugs for that.
Yeah. I actually interviewed a DJ recently and he was kind of hyper. And then the other people at the table was like, "This guy on drugs?" I'm like, "I don't think so. I think he's just hyper." And I'm like, he acts a lot like you." Like,
Like, oh no, we got another one.
but
Yeah.
yeah. So again, it just depends if you're working on your goals. What are you doing to get closer to them? And then, I subscribed to Ed Milet recently, so one of his videos popped up, and I was like watching that this morning, and he's like, "Your reticulator activating system. What are your goals? And if you don't have those blinders on, you're not going to be able to attract it to your life, you know? So if you're looking for, what do you say? We had 75,000 thoughts a day, and then 9% of those thoughts are different, but the other 74,000, right, are all the same thoughts you had from the day before. So what are you doing to change those thoughts? And then as long as you're changing your thoughts, you're opening up, a way for those things that you want in life to come to you. Because if you're not focused on them, then your mind won't be able to fill that space. He's like, it's like putting furniture into a house. Like if you looking towards whatever your goal is, then your mind will constantly work on a way to get you to whatever that is. But if you're not opening up your mind to it, well, then you'll just be stuck in the same rut you were before. Day to day. Again, he was saying 74,000 of 75,000 thoughts are the same from the day before. So what are you doing to change those thoughts?
Yeah, and then the same way with it's basically the same 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. What are you thinking? What are you focusing on? It's the same way with the happiness for a happiness coach here. It's basically what are you focusing
Especially
on?
if you have
Yes,
ADHD,
yeah.
like we're
And
jumping around all these
and
places.
remember, he just talked about the reticulating activating system. Basically, what you focus on, you find more of. So if you're focusing on good, then you'll find more good. Focus on bad, you're going to find more bad. If you're focusing on your business, you'll find more ways to work on these things. And like we started out at the very beginning of this, is that sometimes you're going in the wrong direction. But what we also say here is wheels in motion stay in motion. Basically, if when you stop, it's easier to go somewhere if you just keep on going, even if you're going the wrong way, still because you got the momentum to come back and still have that power. But if you stop and you have no momentum and you're going nowhere, you're not learning anything, you're not turning around, you're not going. So sometimes you have to go the wrong way to understand it's the wrong way so you can turn around and go the right way. So, and what we usually say too on the happiness is we don't really make mistakes. They're just learning experience. Same way with the business, same way with changing the rules of your company when things don't work out. There's I found out, and things that we make things like one was my company. Somebody complained that one of my entertainers was drinking. So I put a clause in there. Nobody drinks. I mean, not. I mean alcohol. You can drink sodas and water and stuff like that. You can't let people die. But at the same time, drinking alcohol or anything at an event. I mean, and if they're smokers, then they smoke out, somewhere where it's outside of the guest area. And it would really depend on what kind of entertainer you got. So mine, we're more of a family kind of, family. We don't really do anything, but if you can't do it in a church, then we can't do it. My company doesn't do it.
Well,
And
there you have it.
yeah, and so the rules we make, and we went all over today, all over the place. So leave a comment what you,
ADHD all
yeah.
over the yeah. Yeah, because I don't know, my mind just kind of opened up a whole lot because I again I ran across the Ed Milet and then I was like I was on a spiel. I was like, oh, let me look up some NLP, and then I was like, oh, there's Mike Mandel, and he was talking about NLP, and I commented on that, and then there was like, oh, let me find the next video, and then it got me back to all the reasons why I started doing what I was doing, and how many transformations that I have, and sometimes you just have to go back and look at things that got you motivated to begin with. What's that? What does that say? Before you quit, remember why you started.
I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Before you quit, ask yourself why you started. And sometimes going back and rekindling that passion you had at the beginning, even if you lose some of it. So I say to Scott every once in a while, it's like you got to watch Burnout because I'm a lot older than Scott. I know I'm prettier, but no, but so I've been running a company for a long time, and after a while, Scott works so hard all the time. And I used to work day to night, day to night, day to night, day to night, day to night. And then at one point I said, I don't want to do that anymore. And that was a choice. So I don't do that anymore. But at one point I did. And you got to find out what's right for you. It's just sort of like the same way is the guy he was talking about who said, I can't do what you do. And sometimes that's true. And the guy doesn't want to do what he's doing. So that's fine too. You don't have to, here's the real thing. If you don't want to succeed and you don't want to do whatever you don't want to do, Scott and I are not trying to force you into something you don't want to do. But if you're wanting to do it and you want to learn, that's why we're here. You know what I mean?
Well,
Because we're
success
not
all
here to
means
force.
something different to everybody else.
Right.
Whatever
So we're
success
not,
is for you. I mean,
yeah, right. So that's what it was. We had pre preposition that the people who watch us want to learn and learn
yeah,
from
for
that
sure.
and go on instead of what can I do to make my life worse today? Instead, we get up and say, what can we do to make our life better? And me, as a happiness coach, I work on being happy more than I work on other things. So
You work on getting your taxes done.
I got mine done. Nah, 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 nah. But
I
Scott
hope
didn't
to have
get
mine
that.
done.
So this is how the whole thing started. These taxes when the guy was supposed to meet with him before. That's why we're doing this a little later today. Is because he couldn't do it because he had a visit with his tax guy.
I thought I had a visit with my tax guy.
Right. So, and that was the thing. After how many times do they have to put you off or you know cancel on you that you
Well,
decide?
here's something to think about. Like,
Hey,
if someone sends you an email and they're like, "Oh, you should feel sorry for this guy because his assistant left him right before busy season." Should should I feel sorry for somebody who takes money from me every single month? Like, I mean, there's a couple different things I should think about, right? Are you paying your people enough? Like, do you have backup systems? I mean, I have to do that with my own company. Why should I feel sorry for somebody? And again, somebody who's kinesthetic probably wrote that email, right? Like, your feelings, like, I'm a cold-hearted prick when it comes to my numbers. I'll tell you right now. Like, the government isn't gonna care, right? Like, they're just gonna come for you. Like, I'm giving you this money, you better do it.
yeah,
This whole
especially
feeling bad for somebody. You've had all my numbers since freaking January. You're waiting till 5 days before it's actually due. Like,
that's where we got to go back to are they professional and
yeah, that's another
again,
story.
yeah, that's another
Yeah,
story.
family's family. You don't have to listen to them all the time. They think they know what's best for you. And that's the worst thing too about learning and growing, right? I've had to say like okay. So when you level up your thinking, you're gonna want to take everybody with you. I sure hell did. Yeah, I sure the hell did. Not many, not many made it. They just they just didn't want to grow, or they just couldn't keep up, or they were just too comfortable to move. So I say goodbye to a lot of people. But then you'll find other people that are um better.
I want to
or at
throw
least or at least on that level, right? Like,
a little thing there. So if they don't want to go where you're wanting to go, and they keep on bringing you down, then you don't have to fire these people, but you do have to put them where they're not taking your energy away. So if they don't want to go where you go, find the people who do. You know, go find the people who want what you want. And when you find that tribe, basically it's a tribe or a certain mindset, go work with those people. The mindset of who wants to improve. If you want to improve, if you don't care, then it doesn't really matter. But if you want to, just like you were saying, find excellent people, you wouldn't go to somebody who's homeless and ask them for financial advice, basically.
Feels
So,
like I did.
uh, so when you do that, then Scott learned from that, and he doesn't do it anymore. He doesn't ask advice. So again, where we started out, find people who are doing what you want to do, and you know, kind of go down that road and understand that you're an individual, and sometimes just because somebody does it exactly the way, you're not going to be able to do that, because just like we were saying, ADHD does take effect, and you have to do how you do your business is kind of how do you run your company, and when, so you find out what's the right way for you, and you take all the knowledge what comes from all your teachers and all the people, and use that and use to bring in to make your company your company.
There you have it.
There you have it. Views of two different owners of a little companies.
There you go. Well, guys, we'll make sure to see you next week. Keep moving. Keep
Keep
moving.